Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is the Living Wisely, Living Well series. And as you all know, this is based on the book that Swami Kriyananda wrote, Living Wisely, Living Well. And today's topic will be from February 27th, basically, state your opinions impersonally. But before we get into the topic, I would like for us just to have a short prayer together, and then we'll meditate together just for 1 minute. I do this so that we can remember that no matter what's going on in life, we always can take 1 minute, 1 moment, and just recenter ourselves and just come back to a calm, centered place where we can relate to the world impersonally and not get caught up in our reactive feelings. So let's pray together. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, guide our lives so that we may know your wisdom and act accordingly. Om. And now let's meditate for 1 minute. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So I'll begin by reading the exact topic and then we'll talk about it. State your opinions impersonally, but not too forcefully, lest you draw your attention more to yourself than to your ideas. Where deep conviction is concerned, however, speak also with the vigor of commitment. So, state your opinions impersonally. Well, let's first talk about opinions. Imagine that you know of some computer program and you're trying to convince your friend that this particular computer program is the best one for the job that's trying to be done. Well, of course, that will be your opinion because most likely you probably don't know every single computer program that's been created out there. Perhaps you are a professional and you know most of the programs. Maybe you know all of them. But even still, it's probably your opinion that it's the best computer program and not truth that it's the best one. We can't really 100% know truth until we don't have an ego. And this actually goes right to the heart of this conversation, of this particular reading for this evening. That when we can state our opinions impersonally 100% perfectly, they no longer will be opinions, they'll be truth. And if they're 100% impersonal, they won't be coming from a place of ego. They'll be coming from a place of superconsciousness, where we know everything. There's a story where Swami Kriyananda once went shopping for a computer, and he didn't know much about computers at all. In fact, he didn't even know how to access the internet, and he refused to. Even by the end of his life, he just says, I'm an old man. He did do email, but he wouldn't learn the internet. He just didn't want to. He saw no reason to. So we can't say that he was an expert about computers. However, he went shopping. He needed a new computer. He went shopping and just kind of looked and said, oh, I think I'll take this one. And he chose that one. Now, the interesting thing is he had, I guess I could say, a secretary who very much was good at researching which would be the best computer, looking at all of the different, features of the different computers. And he wanted to just see, he was curious if Swami made a good decision or not. So he spent many hours, maybe days, I don't know, researching which did he think would be the best computer if he could just choose anything. And after hours and hours, or whatever the time frame was, of research, he came to the same opinion that if it was just left to him, he would have bought that same computer that Swami chose. Now, it looked like Swami just chose that almost randomly or just on a whim. But the interesting thing is that no, actually, it took many incarnations for Swami to develop himself to a point where he did not have any ego, to a point where he could very easily ask God, what's the right computer for me? Listen very sensitively, and then, okay, I'll take this one. Now, most of us, we don't want to make big decisions in life based on intuition that's half-baked, that we first should test our intuition in little things, and then once we're sure of it, then we can use it in bigger and bigger things. It's just another way, honestly, of looking at life, of why are we here? We're here to find God. And when we know God, we'll know everything, and we'll know exactly how to behave and how to make the right decisions in life. But until we know God, we should not presume on that, and we should take things slowly. And so we also should use our reason. And that if something is true, it's true on all levels. But today, I guess truth, it does contrast with opinion, but in this world of relativity, that we will be in situations all the time in life where it is our opinion, and that we still need to state it because perhaps God is trying to speak through us, that this is the right thing that's trying to happen. And so it comes down to, how do we state our opinions? How do we speak? What is our tone of voice at all times throughout the day? You know, this story just came into my mind, and I'm sure most of you who are watching know this, but that there was a time when Paramahansa Yogananda had to scold a disciple. And I don't know if it was a lady or a male. I think it was a woman, but I'm not sure. And so he was turning and yelling at her, I can't believe you did that, never do this again. I don't know the exact words, but he raised his voice, and then he would turn around, and then he would just smile and just put on the most peaceful face to another disciple. And that was to let that other disciple know he wasn't angry. He was just putting on a show because it was the only way that he could reach that person that he was scolding. I once tried this, actually, that it was time for me to scold someone who had done something wrong. And so I was yelling and saying, you shouldn't do this. And then I turned around and was smiling at my friend S.A. And back and forth I went like that. And it went all right for me. But for a few days afterwards, I could still feel this little bit of lingering inside of myself of something was just a little bit not right. And I felt that I hadn't achieved that level of spirituality where I could 100% do that. And so I decided that I'd rather just not yell, and until I reached that particular level where I could do that. Anyway, the point of all of this was the tone of our voice, that it carries so much of our state of consciousness. So it's good at all times to be aware and be in control of our tone of voice. I'm going to go back and read this while I'm focusing on the tone of voice. And that is, it's interesting to me why Swamiji said, state them, your opinions, impersonally, why he used the word but not too forcefully. And I think that as we gain some level of impersonality, that a certain state of commanding, or not, let me see if I can get my words here right, but just a commanding presence comes through us as we begin to have less ego, that there's a certain power of God that comes through us. So he used that word, but not too forcefully. So as that power of God's coming through you, watch it. Make sure that it stays balanced, that it stays full of love, even though that power of God will be there as your ego becomes less and less, and as you speak more and more impersonally. But if it's too forceful, Swamiji says, then you'll draw attention more to yourself, to that power. And so we have to learn to balance these things. While we're on the tone of voice here, though, where deep conviction is concerned, also speak with the vigor of commitment. So if we really do believe that what we're saying is right, that don't just, oh, well, maybe if you think it's okay, maybe we should do it. That never saw Swamiji speak like that. I saw him speak softly and very kindly, but at least I wanted to listen. And I think everybody around also wanted to listen, even though very often he spoke very softly. You know, this reminds me of something else that's interesting. It's said that as Anandamoy Ma became older, that she gain more of this impersonal, just commanding presence, like a male general in an army that would just get things done. And it's also said that males, as they progress on the spiritual path, that they become softer and more gentle. And the point of all of this is that we're trying to find that balance between the love in our heart and between willpower, which lives here. We, even as yogis, try to find that balance within our own posture. This evening, we're talking about finding that balance within your own voice. But ultimately, you have to find it in everything that you do, in your actions, in your meditation, in every aspect of life, in your seva. You have to find that balance of when to be forceful and when to be loving and when to make the right decisions, how to make the right decisions. I want to get back to this topic, this understanding of opinions, because it's interesting. I was about to say, I want to have no opinions. But the interesting thing, we're so caught by desire that as soon as I say I want, already somehow it's not going to work out. And I want this, and then it has to be like that. It's like this, that once Rajarsi Janakananda, master asked him, please talk. And Rajarsi was saying, but I have no desire to speak. I don't want to speak. You're the guru. I just want to be humble. And then he realized in his mind and in a few words that he said something to those effect that he was contradicting the guru. And immediately he started to speak. So I want to have no opinions, but the way to have no opinions is just simply to be, is just to calmly try to be a channel for truth. You know, as you watch people, the average person in this world, when two people have a conversation, just two average worldly people, they're not talking about principles. They're not talking about truth. They're not saying, hey, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what you think. What's true here? What's trying to happen? Usually two people in the world are saying, no, I know from my experience. It's like this. I'm telling you, this is the way that it is. And they're just going back and forth wanting to be right. Usually in that kind of conversation, the idea or the principle goes right out the window, and two people are just arguing. It reminds me of another story that Swami Kriyananda tells. I believe it's in the book Sadhu Beware. And that is, Swamiji called her the musical nun. That she said, no, that musical sequence, it's not right. I know because my ear tells me. I didn't even say it right. She said it, I know because my ear tells me. And so she put that emphasis on my ear. And Swamiji knew that she probably was right, that because she was a very well-trained musician, that she did know, and that musical sequence probably wasn't right. But it comes back to the tone of her voice and the emphasis on my instead of ear. And that Swamiji said soon thereafter she left her spiritual calling and she was no longer a nun. It's scary that if we don't pay attention to our tone of voice, if we don't pay attention to, are we trying in our interaction with other people to convey principles instead of my opinion, that we can just go off of the spiritual path. It happens subtly, it happens gradually, that we think, oh, these other monks, they're not right, or these other people in my office, if they only knew, these people, This whole world, it's simply a reflection of your own consciousness. If you see rightness, goodness, joy in the world, you'll be surrounded by other people who are filled with joy. If you have harmony within yourself, you'll be surrounded by other people who are harmonious. Get rid of negativity within yourself. Life is too short to live with any negativity. I'm going to go a little off topic, but I feel to say it, that if you're struggling with your emotions and wild emotions and happy one day, sad the next, Nobody is going to change that except for you. If you let all kinds of crazy thoughts come into your mind, no one is going to take responsibility for your mind except for you. You can wait incarnations hoping that once you find that perfect ideal environment where everybody's peaceful, then your thoughts will be peaceful, then your heart will be peaceful. Or you can just get some spiritual understanding right now and decide that you have to take responsibility for your emotions, for the heart's feelings, for your own thoughts. Granted, it's not easy, but it's possible, and you can do it, especially with the power of a guru and with the power of meditation, with the power of Kriya Yoga. So it's important for you to try to learn to control yourself like that. Let's see what else here. Yes, that it is important for us to decide what are our principles. I'm sorry, my mind. There's one more thing that I wanted to say while I just came from Sadhu Beware, and I was talking about being in the office and that maybe it seems all of the people in the office are no good. Very, very interestingly, that Swamiji in the book Sadhu Beware wrote 33 ways to be an ego detective or to get rid of ego. 31 of those ways have to do with your interactions with other people. Only 2 of them are about how you are with your own self and things that you can do to just change yourself, not relative to other people. That's very interesting. It means that God has put us in this world for a reason, and that if we pay attention to how we are interacting with other human beings, to how we are behaving, that then we can make very quick and rapid spiritual progress. Making spiritual progress is the only thing to do here. Everything else is just a show. It's just a merry-go-round that just goes around and around and around in circles. And there's only one way off, and that's to figure out who we truly are. That is to even view our own self and everything that we do impersonally. That means if you've made mistakes, give them back to God. Say, God, you're the one who made that mistake through me. Why did you do that, God? Of course, it sounds like we're shirking our responsibility. But if you'll do this, you'll find that the next time that choice comes in your life and you think, should I do this or should I do that? That you'll remember that last time you blamed God and that now the choice is right there in front of you again. Number 1, God will be foremost in your mind. And number 2, somehow it doesn't feel 100% right to blame God. That you, again, have to take responsibility for your own actions, for your own mind. And you can do anything that you want to do in this world with your own willpower. And then ultimately you want to bring God's willpower, God's joy, God's everything into your life to help you accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. And in that, so much joy comes, and life really, it becomes worth living. And remember this also. Sometimes the spiritual path, it can get a little bit dry, and we can just be thinking, okay, that Brahmachari, he said that I can make it with my own willpower and I have to do it. That if it's getting dry, if it's not fun, you're done. That it has to stay fun. And remember that God himself is joy, and that whatever little bit of joy you've experienced in this lifetime, that it's just this much of the consciousness of God and of the joy that God is experiencing all the time, and that it's your birthright to be experiencing joy all the time, to be floating through life on cloud 9, as the saying goes, to be living life like it's a fairy tale, like it's the most wonderful thing that could ever be happening, because it is, because it's all God's drama, and he's written every single part of this play to help you learn each lesson, to help you grow, to help you remember that this is all God's, that God is within you, that God is outside of you, that everything is God, and that means that everything is joy. So live in that consciousness. Don't forget it, that if you start working too hard, or that if one thing's going wrong or the other, come back to that minute meditation we did at the beginning of this. Don't lose yourself in this world. Don't lose yourself working too hard or thinking that you're going to find joy from this or that. Really, the only place you're going to find joy is on the inside. That this is all just a reflection. But once you really gain that first intellectually, and then, okay, you listen to the webinar, you read the book, fine. But then once you really gain that in practice, well, okay, a few things will shake you. Thank God that He will bring some magnetic tests sometimes that are just too much. But by the end, you'll understand how magnetism works. You'll understand what's going on. You'll feel sorry for the poor people that are yelling at you, that haven't yet figured out how to control their emotions. You'll learn how to keep your magnetism and your energy high. And you'll pray for them, even when they're hurting you. In the end, you'll be like Christ, who will say, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." Because even if you have to lose your body in order to stick to your principles, that it's all right. You'll just get another body if God wants you to have one. You know, once someone asked Ananda Moima, what if I decided to sit underneath a tree and meditate and fast and not let any food come to me until God came to me? And what if it turned out that no one brought me food and I just sat there and I fasted until the body, it died and God never came? With that, I don't remember exactly how the person phrased the question, but it was probably something like, would that be a good idea, Ananda Moima? Or should I break my will, since I set it to that, and get up and say, he's not coming, and go eat some food? Ananda Moima said, if you set your will to that, to fast until death in order for God to come, then don't break it. It would be better to not break it. You'll get another body, and in the next lifetime, you'll have a very strong will. When I first heard that, I thought, what a story. It can seem sometimes like these spiritual things are a little bit fanatical. And so if your willpower is nowhere near that level of commitment, then don't even try it. You know, that we also have to have some level of spiritual understanding before we try to leap off the cliff, as it were, like that story in the autobiography of a yogi with the disciple who said, if you won't accept me, Babaji. So build your willpower slowly, build your faith slowly, but do understand you are an immortal being. Of course, I'm not counseling you to do anything stupid or silly, that you have to balance that you have all of your duties in this world as well, and that you can't do anything rash or foolish. You have to put all of this together in your mind. If I say it like this over here, well, of course. You have this over here. If I say it like that, well, of course. That truth, honestly, is silent. That truth you'll find in your deepest meditation when you devotionally open your heart up to God and ask for God to come in. But you have to have that devotion. You have to call from the deepest longing in your heart. And that's not an outer show. That deepest longing isn't something to be shared with the world and all of your friends who are also on the spiritual path. That's quiet. That's your most deep secret between you and God. Yes, have that devotion. Yes, inspire people a little bit. Show them a little. But don't let them know the treasure chest that's hiding underneath your bed. That's between you and God. So, what are your principles? What are you committed to? If that was something else in this reading, it talked about commitment. And so you have to decide what your principles are, and they'll change as you grow spiritually. But whatever your principles are now, stick to them. I want to tell you a small personal story. I've told other people this. I don't know who's watching, but there was a time when I set my will to raise $200,000 for the land out at the retreat outside of Pune. I told myself I'm going to stop calling it the land. Us people who've been around for a little while, in the beginning, it was just a piece of land, so we called it the land. But that's not a magnetic name. Anyways, so I set my will. I'm going to raise $200,000. I was a little bit naive, much younger, at how hard that actually was. But I thought, I have a strong will. I can do whatever I want. And we need some money out there. We need to do this. Let's go for it. So I started raising this money, and 5,000 euros came in over here, 1 lakh came in over here, and then this thing was set up and we were about to get $50,000 over here. And we were very young as an organization at that time, and we didn't have many of our financial channels set up, especially to be able to handle international donations and all of this. And it's complicated being an NGO. And so I was starting to create more heat by trying to bring in all of this money from all of these different places than I felt was worth it. We were young as an organization. We weren't ready for a lot of these things. So I just decided, well, we've raised enough money. Let's just stop. What does it matter? Swami really scolded me for that. It's so interesting. We're talking about willpower and love. He just gave a satsang and he just kind of looked at me, said, when you set your will to something, never stop even if it kills you. And I knew exactly what he was referring to. So it's not like he scolded me, you're a terrible human being, you set your will to this. He knew everything that was going on in everybody's lives. And I knew when he looked at me that way, that that's what he was referring to. And so since then, I've tried whatever I set my will to accomplish it. And I haven't been perfect. But the point of all of this is use discrimination as to what you're going to set your will to. Use discrimination as to what your principles are, and then live by them. And then it doesn't matter what other people say. Yes, it matters what your guru says, and the wise ones who have gone before you. And yes, Paramahansa Yogananda is not in his body. So now we are following the living link. I only have 1 or 2 minutes left, but that living link could even be the truth that's coming from a child who has stated his opinion impersonally and is being a true channel for God. So that living link of the guru, it can come from anywhere. But if your heart's open to him, if you really want God, he'll start talking to you all over in many different ways that you can't even fathom. And you'll start to hear that voice. You'll know that voice. It will become very real, and then follow it. And so if you will live by your principles, if you'll live committed to those principles, that you can find God in this lifetime. And it's the only thing to do. Absolutely nothing else. It's just a dream. It doesn't matter. It just goes on and on, like I said, in circles. So figure out, how is it that you can prioritize your life? How can you aim your life, not in this direction, not in that direction, but like the chant that Paramahansa Yogananda has, I have made thee pole star of my life. How can you aim everything in your life towards God, towards deeper realization? I was having a fun conversation with someone the other day, very just sharp, bright human being, big, strong willpower, very just honest and an admirable human being. But he was kind of on the fence. Should I really take up the spiritual path or not? And interestingly, the thing he was worried about is, might it become a little bit addictive where I'm meditating and I'm feeling all of this joy and then I no longer want to do my duties? And I told him, yes, it will become addictive like that. Yes, the joy will be there, but it's not going to make you an irresponsible human being. It will make you even more a responsible human being. And I told him that my life has become more organized because I want to figure out how can I squeeze every minute more in order to be able to meditate more, because so much joy is there. Yet I also know that I have my duties in this life, that I can't run away from them. That circle I've been talking about, those duties will come right back if you try to ignore them or shirk them. But if we will do our duties with God, that we will graduate from them and we'll be able to live solely in God's bliss. That Paramahansa Yogananda, in 2 different places in the Autobiography of a Yogi, wrote that man's highest duty is to live in this world and do his duties in this world with God and to meditate. The quote's not like that at all, but you'll find it in there if you look for it. But the point here is that we have to do both. We have to meditate. We have to do our duties until those two, they'll merge. And that you'll find that even your duties, you're meditating all the time, that you're only thinking that God's the one doing it, and you can be merged in that bliss. And in meditation, that you'll be sending out so many blessings, so many prayers to everyone, that that will be your duty. In the end, there becomes no difference. Well, I've gone over the time. It's been a great joy being with you this evening. I look forward to the next time. May God bless you.